Hey everybody, welcome to Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber and thanks for joining us. We are going to go to Ada County, Idaho, where we are days away from opening statements in the trial of Doomsday cult mom Lori Vallow Daybell. Now, Daybell faces multiple charges, including first-degree murder for the deaths of her son JJ Vallow and daughter Tylee Ryan, as well as the death of her husband Chad's first wife, Tammy Daybell, who died what we thought was under suspicious circumstances, and now there is so much more. Now, if convicted, the Doomsday cult mom faces life in prison. A lot at stake here. Now, we know that lawyers on both sides have spent this week narrowing down the jury pool, and they are going to learn that we are almost there. We are almost with a selected jury in the Lori Vallow Daybell case. Next, the lawyers are mostly going to spend the weekend preparing for opening statements on Monday. Let's go right now to our very own GiGi McKelvey, who is outside live at the Ada County Courthouse in Idaho. GiGi, good morning to you. It's good to see you. I want to start right now. Where are we in the jury selection process? Because it seems to me it's going to be finished by today.
Yeah, I think so too. We got the magic number of 42 yesterday after about 5 o'clock, and they decided to go ahead and keep seeing potential jurors just because there's a chance somebody may not show up today or somebody refuses to sign their affirmation. They've been exposed to the case. So they added 3 different jurors to sit in today, making that 45. So each side will have 12 strikes. They can use it on any juror they want, which will get us down to our 12 sitting jurors and then the 6 alternates. So I think we'll get there fairly quickly this morning. This typically doesn't take a long time.
Yeah, there's not going to be a real sense of a back and forth here. I think they were pretty much going to narrow this down. Tell us what you can about who these jurors are, the 45 that have been selected. Obviously, we don't know which ones are going to be the final jury, but what's the gamut? I mean, what are their professions? How old are they? Where do they come from? What do we know about these 45?
This jury seems to be a little more mature in that we can't see them, but just trying to figure out by their voices, you know, maybe late 20s, early 30s, 40s, and on up. Not a lot of really young people so far, although yesterday there was a 22-year-old who stood up and talked for quite a long time. Lori was very focused on her, by the way. I think it's odd, you know, why she's tended to focus on that one juror. And you think about it, Tylee would be close to that age had she not been murdered nearly 4 years ago. You wonder what's going through her mind. But we have professionals that are in the computer business, medical professionals, people that are involved in the county. We have, I mean, it's just a wide arrangement. We have one guy who says he's a nerd and he just does like computer stuff, and that's a good thing because he says he doesn't follow true crime. So it's going to be interesting to see which 18 are finally picked.
Yeah, and my understanding yesterday, there was a sense of travel plans, right? I mean, I know the first few days of jury selection was mostly about hardship. Could you even sit on this jury? Are there going to be problems? But wasn't there an issue yesterday with travel plans of some of these jurors?
There were a couple, and you hate to watch it unfold, but people probably drive to the courthouse thinking, yeah, when I tell them I have travel plans, it'll be a 5-minute thing, they'll let me go. But that has not been the case. So they'll typically start questioning them. Can you cancel? Can you get a refund? And then you kind of hear the wind go out of their sails where they're like, well, maybe I could. And then they'll ask, are you going to hold it against Lori Vallow if you can't go on your vacation and you have to sit on this jury? So they all said that they could be fair and impartial, but man, their voices told another story.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they'd be pretty upset and that would taint them. Did any of them say, listen, I'm going on my vacation? All right, I don't care what you say. I can't refund. I'm going on my vacation.
Yeah, no, we haven't had anybody say that. On the other hand, if it were me, I would say I'd totally hold it against her and I'll send you a postcard. But we didn't have anybody do that yesterday. They all seemed willing to try to work around it and see what they could do. So everybody that has been interviewed really has seemed to put themselves out there to make adjustments if they were to be called to be on this jury.
And what about religion? Because I know that the religious beliefs of Lori Vallow Daybell and Chad Daybell are going to be a huge component of this case. Have the jurors been asked about that, and have they had any reservations about the religious component of this case?
They haven't asked that to every single juror, but they have a few. I think maybe people, how they answer on the questionnaire, they follow up with that. We did have one guy yesterday who flat out said, I cannot be fair and impartial if somebody's religious beliefs are not fundamentally the same as mine. And of course, he was excused. But and then on the other hand, we had a juror who said, hey, I was raised to not put my eggs in one basket or judge. And if that's what they believe, and I can be fair and impartial. But yesterday was the first time somebody was excused due to a religious conflict.
Okay. Look, I still have the belief that I think it was very beneficial to move this trial to Ada County. I mean, there are people who know about it, but not to the degree I would have imagined if it was out in Rexburg. And now we're coming to the end of actually getting these jurors selected. I ask you every day, you mentioned it a little bit, but I ask you every day, what did you observe from Lori Vallow Daybell in that courtroom? Because I think her demeanor is so fascinating. You know, the study of her progression from, what was she on, Wheel of Fortune back in the day, or Family Feud, I forgot what it was, and then all of a sudden to where she is now, and watching how she's behaved in interviews in the courtroom. What did she look like yesterday?
It was just more of the same with her, just kind of focused, interactive with her attorneys, writing a lot yesterday, sneaking a peek at Archibald's little illegal pad when they were to sidebar, I noticed. But she kind of just, you know, especially at sidebar, it's a little awkward because she's alone and the jury's staring at her. Sometimes she looks at the jury, but oftentimes she'll kind of just turn her head and look out the window. Probably a little different change of scenery for her since she's been in jail for over 3 years. But she's just very focused, very involved in this whole process. And I do think yesterday she seemed to focus a little bit more as this was winding down.
And we also, talking about that courtroom, we got an understanding yesterday and earlier in the week that Larry and Kay Woodcock and Colby Ryan, these family members, might actually be now allowed to be in the courtroom. Can you expand upon how that's going to work and what the justification was maybe for them to be able to be in the courtroom? Because obviously I think one of the concerns was, if they're going to be witnesses at this trial, do you want them sitting in, listening to all the testimony when that could ultimately color their testimony? But what was the ruling?
Well, the ruling was as best as it could be for Kay and Larry Woodcock, the grandparents of J.J. Vallow. They ruled that Kay is the representative of JJ. So since her brother Charles adopted JJ and now he is deceased at the hands of Alex Cox, that would put Kay in line to be next to be his personal representative in court. Larry, however, was not deemed as a victim. However, once he testifies, he can go sit down and watch the remainder of the trial. So I'm hoping Rob Wood puts him up first. I think Kay and Larry are going to need each other through the next few weeks as they try to digest this terrible information we're sure to learn as openings start and the case progresses. As far as Summer Shiflet, again, she was deemed as Tylee's personal representative. That's Lori's sister. And then Colby, of course, is automatically listed as a victim because he's siblings to JJ and Tylee. So that's how it went down. And so hopefully Larry goes up really quickly and then he can sit and not have to worry about this issue anymore.
And do you have a sense of what they are all going to testify to? For example, what are Larry and Kay Woodcock going to testify to? What is Colby Ryan going to testify to? And maybe you tell me if Summer Shiflet is going to be a witness as well.
Summer should be on the witness list because she was specifically listed in that filing about who's allowed in the courtroom. So that was the argument of could she sit in even though she is a witness. But I think that Kay and Larry, you know, they were the ones who called in the welfare check for JJ, so that's going to be pretty important. That's what really kicked all of this off when law enforcement started putting all this together, combined with that welfare check and how Chad and Lori and Alex acted when police showed up there for that welfare check. And so I think we're going to hear about mostly that with Kay, about the search for the kids, her communication or lack thereof with Lori, how the communication with JJ just got smaller and smaller over time and then stopped. So I think that's going to be pretty much the extent of their testimony. As far as Colby, you know, he was sort of in and out of their lives, not really a constant fixture during the time the kids were missing, although he did try to text his sister, said that the text didn't sound like her, and they were avoiding, whoever was answering that phone was avoiding a FaceTime and things like that. As far as her sister Summer, I'm not really sure. I know Summer maybe, we know Summer had some communication with Lori throughout this whole process, and in the beginning was a supporter of Lori's. So it'll be interesting to see what she's going to testify to. I think she is for the state, so it's very interesting. We'll see who's going to turn against her.
You actually just reminded me of something. We talked so much about the prosecution's case. Do we know who the defense plans to call as witnesses?
We really don't know. That witness list is sealed, and so it's kind of a guess at this point. We know mental health's not coming in, so likely we won't be hearing from any professionals that have examined her or could offer any insight into a potential mental illness. But no, we have no idea right now who is going to be testifying for her. Will it be family? We have no clue.
And then opening statements Monday, right? So what are we expecting with those opening statements? The story they're gonna tell, and whether or not we'll even get, I know there are no cameras, but maybe some audio from the courtroom. Maybe we'll get a sense from that. But you tell us what we should be expecting for Monday.
Well, Monday openings start at 8:30. So Judge Boyce, his plan is to run the trial from 8:30 to 3:30 every day. But I think opening statements, the state has got to come out hard and fast, and they've got to get this jury's attention. And unfortunately, I think that's going to be some very graphic photos shown right out of the gate to show the gravity and just the evil that was done here. So, and as far as the defense, I think it's just going to be somebody's getting thrown under the bus, whether it's Alex, her brother, who is believed to have actually killed the kids, or her husband, Chad Daybell, remains to be seen. But Lori definitely has a history of throwing people under the bus when she's in the hot seat. So I feel like that's going to be what's going to happen. It's just a matter of who.
Well, I'm going to ask you a little bit of a complicated question because I have been wrestling with it all night, thinking about this case. And I know this is a kind of a legal-based question, but here's what I think. So, Lori Vallow Daybell has been charged not only with the murders of her children, but conspiracy to commit those murders, correct? Right?
Correct.
Okay, so I am trying to imagine a scenario where the jury could come back and find her guilty of conspiracy and not guilty of the murder. And the reason I think that's significant is because she is not charged with the murder of Tammy Daybell, just the conspiracy to commit murder of Tammy Daybell. So, and technically under the law, she wouldn't even have to be the person who killed the children to be found guilty of murder. So I'm trying to see a scenario where the jury might say, you know what, she was part of this agreement to kill the kids, but maybe she wasn't an active participant in the killing. And I just, based on what you know of this case, and I know a lot of it is kept secret, can you imagine a scenario where she wasn't a part of this? Because you see, the prosecution thinks there's enough to go here that she didn't just have an agreement to kill the kids, she was a part of the killing of the kids. And whether she was there at the crime scene or not, or killed the kids or not, I just find that so fascinating, and I wanted to throw it to you.
Well, I think the biggest thing we can take from one of the repetitive questions, rather, that they've asked these jurors, can you convict on a circumstantial case? So that tells me that maybe they have nothing tying her physically to those crime scenes, but it's the same thing, and they're going to explain this in great detail to these jurors. If you are part of the conspiracy and the plan to end the life of somebody, you are as culpable as the person who ended that life. And so it could be a situation where maybe if you are hesitant to actually charge or find her guilty of the murder, but the conspiracy holds the same weight, it's going to be the same penalty. But that will be interesting as we get towards deliberations to see just what this jury was sure of and what the state proved.
That's what's so interesting. They feel they have enough to charge her with the actual murder of the kids, but they don't feel they have enough to charge her with the actual murder of Tammy Daybell. Why? I'm sure we're going to get a lot more answers from those opening statements, and I'm going to have a lot more questions for you, GiGi, on Monday. So thank you so much. Great reporting all this week on jury selection. I know you have to jump back in as we finally get a selected jury. GiGi, thank you. All right, everybody, stay with us here on Law and Crime. I'm going to be signing off, but we have so much to cover for you here on the network. We'll be right back right after this.